I continue.
So it's on.
That's right.
Oh,
The screen's gone smaller.
go back.
I'll go back again.
Oh.
How you doing, Jenny?
Fine, thank you. How are you today, James?
I'm great. I'm great. I was looking forward to today. We've got a lot of things to talk about. How are you, anyway? You okay?
Yes, keeping busy. I'm always busy, but I'd rather be busy than bored, especially as I can't travel as much as before.
Well, this is what this discussion's about. We both love to travel, see different things. It's about gaining knowledge when you travel places, isn't it? Opens your mind up, and so much. I could imagine my life as I never traveled. I'm sure you're the same. So much
Yes.
you've learned. So it's going to be an interesting conversation today.
Yes, it's travel really opens the mind, and it's the best form of education, really. Because if you sit in a classroom or in front of the computer and see a place, it's not the same as actually going and being there or even living in the place.
That's true. That's so true. And it's one of those things, it starts from the beginning, doesn't it? It does help when your parents encourage you to travel or take you to travel. That's the first things. Then there has to be something yourself that way. I was very curious about this world. So many different peoples and different stories, and it was just for thousands of years, indigenous peoples, and just learn about Africa, because all the lies told about Africa, lies told about many places in the world of indigenous peoples or ancient structures around the world that's been built by great ancestors. And it's unbelievable. And just to get to see how people are not as spoiled as people in the West, especially when you travel to, you'll go into whether it's South America, Africa, what they call third world countries, Asia, a lot of countries.
Yes.
And
what I found, it's that the so-called third world countries, people seem to be a lot happier than those who have a lot of material wealth. And I've noticed that in quite a few countries.
Most definitely. I've seen that myself. And you see the children, they learn from young, like they become adults from young in the right way, though. They can cook at age 9. Some of these people look after the parents. They're so helpful. It's not about what can you give me, and these things really show us the problems that we're facing in the West. We're facing problems and it's so everything starts from the beginning, and then as people get older, then it's even some people don't change even as they get older.
I know.
Some people don't change, small mind, but you know how we do it. So can I ask you some questions also?
Yes, please do.
Right. Now, as I analyze a lot of your posts. So when you put posts on, and I've seen Japan, I've seen Ghana, I've seen quite a few places. I thought, wow, Jennylynd's definitely traveled and been around. And that's definitely someone I can relate to, most importantly. And you're doing it looks like you're doing interesting things when you travel. So some people might just travel, I'm going on the beach all day, or go to bars, restaurants, and that's all it's basic things what about. But if we start with Africa, the motherland, the first place of humanity and everything else. So where did you travel to in Africa? I understand you went to Ghana, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ghana was the first African country that I visited, and I'll tell you how it came about. Okay. I was living in Dublin, Ireland. I lived and worked there for about 7 years. And in Dublin at that time, it was mid 2000s. There were quite a few Africans who had moved to Dublin during the Celtic Tiger, when the economy was booming. And I had made friends with some Ghanaian girls, and they used to have lots of parties and all that. So I'd go to all the parties, and they reminded me a lot of Caribbean people, because I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, and we like to party a lot. You know, any occasion is a celebration.
Oh, yeah.
And so I managed to, you know, just mesh really well with the Ghanaian crowd in Dublin. And so one year, it was 2009, one of my friends said, oh, please come to our country, you know, I'm going home on holidays. So in 2009, I made the first trip to Ghana. I spent almost 3 weeks and just roamed around. You know, I stayed not in luxury hotels, but a tiny motel. The first town was Takoradi, right. West along the coast. And I figured, you know, to stretch the dollar, if I stayed in a little hotel, then I would have lots of money to actually see a lot of places. And that's what I did. I would hire a driver for the day and say, you know, take me to this place, that place. So I got to see many, many sites and literally live the way a simple Ghanaian would live in a tiny, let's say a tiny hotel accommodation, modest. And eat their food because I like to experiment with food. So I tried all the various dishes because I had exposure to the food when I lived in Dublin. My friends would cook Ghanaian food. So I knew about it and it was good to taste the food when I got there. So I went to Kumasi, the Ashanti capital.
Wow.
I visited the Ashanti Museum. People thought I was Ghanaian because I look a little bit like them, but so they were not sure. You know, so in some cases, you know, I would go to pay to get in the museum and they think I'm a local, so they would just charge me local fees, which is quite funny. But anyway, I visited Hafasni, which is one of the furthest towns west, close to the Cote d'Ivoire border. And Accra, of course, and many, I went to the Cape Coast Castle. That's where Africans were transported to North America and enslaved. So, you know, I had to visit Cape Coast Castle just for the experience. And it was a very sad experience because, you know, I knew that some of my ancestors may have passed through there.
Yeah.
And Kakum National Forest, they have these 7 suspension bridges where you could go and walk from tree trunk to tree trunk, you know, in the forest, and it's quite exciting. So I did many, many exciting things on that trip. And then recently, just last Christmas, I decided in the middle of the pandemic to go back to Ghana, and this time to use Accra as my base. So I rented an apartment for a month. And I figured, you know, a month would be a good time, you know, from Accra to just go and visit different places and get the full experience of living there. Because I find when you stay in a hotel, it's not the same as actually living in an apartment, going to the supermarket, buying food, cooking, you know, going to the market.
Yeah.
So I had a true Ghanaian experience in this last trip. So we went mid-December, came back mid-January. And I went to Makala Market in Accra, which is the biggest market you've ever seen. The street after street with vendors selling. And we happened to go a few days before Christmas Day. And it was mayhem. I mean, you could barely pass. You just had to squeeze through the crowd. So it was very exciting. And on that trip too, I also took an airline, African World Airline within the country, and flew up north to Tamale, which is the capital in the north of Ghana. And it was very, very different to the lifestyle in the south. In the south, the people are more Christians. In the north, they're Muslims, so there are many mosques and little households surrounding mosques. Driving through the desert, because it's dry desert type terrain in the north.
Wow. Yeah.
So quite a few mud huts with thatch roofs, which you would never see in the south. So,
Okay.
and in the north, the people rode on little motorbikes. So there were thousands of motorbikes everywhere in Tamale and around the towns around Tamale, while in Accra, it was cars. So it was like a completely different country, different experience being in the north. So that was
Interesting.
quite interesting.
So I ask you a question about Ghana then. So with Ghana, if you was, like the way you're saying, you have Christians in the south, you have more Muslims in the north. What about the traditional Ghanaian spirituality?
I think it's absent. And that's
It's
one thing I
absent.
was looking
Right, see?
for. I was
Yeah.
looking to see. Because I'm not a religious person, but I am spiritual. And I was looking to see if any African spirituality existed there. And sadly, they've been colonized so well mentally that they think that African spirituality is a bad thing. Like all the Christians that I spoke to, if I were to tell them I don't go to church, they would be horrified. Okay. Yes, everything is Jesus, all the buses have a face of the white Jesus and all the shops. And so it was quite a revelation, or shocking to see how mentally colonized they are. And I think the best place to find African spirituality is in the Caribbean, Brazil, in Latin America. That's where you would find traditional African spirituality as it existed centuries ago.
Yeah.
But in Africa, it's gone. Well colonized. So I found that very sad.
Yeah. So Ghana, I mean, that's definitely a place I've got to go to, and I do try my best to find the ancient traditional ways when I travel somewhere.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be difficult. I might have to go on the longest drives into the most secluded areas, villages, just to find a small piece of what I'm looking for. So
in the north of Ghana, you would find a lot of traditional clothing and houses as they were centuries ago, the thatch roof, mud huts and all that. But so that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Because the South, around Accra is just like any American city. And everybody wants to be American or European. So, know.
Well, you know what? One thing about West Africa, this could I be have tried other parts of Africa. West Africa is very interesting place for the fact of we come from West Africa. Some may come from Central Africa, but all this area, what we're talking about, whether before this transatlantic slave trade, when you're dealing with Mansa Musa, it's like you've got a slide of Gambia, and this is in the fish market. It's where you get all your fish. You just pick up a big freezer and it's full of all sorts of fish in there. And the history of Gambia, because we, from youth, roots, we watched Kunta Kinte.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had to go to Kunta Kinte Island to really, see what's going on.
Yes.
Now, what I found with them is they told me a lot about the Gambia because it's such a small country. At one time, it was part of the Songhai Empire, which is Ghana, early Ghana, and also was part of what we call Mansa Musa, the Malian Empire.
Oh.
And it's very interesting where we see countries, that's what we talk about to this day, but it's about empires, nations, and kingdoms. It's unbelievable from what we get taught in school, or
nothing
at all. So that's why it was important to a drive to go out and self-discovery. That's what it's a bit about.
Yes.
And knowledge yourself, because what we get fed, one thing about Black people, wherever we are in the world, we are always kept at the bottom. Our knowledge is always stolen. People steal our ideas and use it for their own benefit.
Yes.
I
digress a little bit. I'll show you something I got in Cuba. This is my Yamaya Doll.
Yeah. Okay.
And in Cuba, African spirituality is well and alive. And Yamaya is the goddess of the sea, right? So this is just a representation of Yamaya. And I bought this doll in Cuba when I did an African spirituality tour. And what is interesting is
great.
that they inherited the religion from Yoruba tribes that were enslaved in Cuba.
Yoruba, right.
Yes. And many people, everybody, not just African Cubans, but everybody else too, you know, the Spanish Cubans, it's very trendy to practice the African spirituality. Can you imagine? In the 21st century. So
I did
tour
actually
guide,
read something about what that, funny enough, you're saying. That's interesting what you just said there.
yes,
Yeah.
the tour guide was a white Cuban, and she knew so much, and I was there learning from her and taking notes, and she was so into it. And she said it's very trendy in Havana in particular.
Wow.
Maybe not the rest of the country, but in Havana, you find not just African Cubans, but white Cubans practicing the African spirituality.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting. I mean, that like of how far our knowledge travels, our culture travels, and you know, it's very even surprising to even that these things still exist. But obviously, it's been a reason for our culture being kept, whether Cuba, Haiti, Brazil, and also it's the part of Trinidad as well. That practice of Pan-African.
Oh yes, they call it Shango Baptist, the Shango Baptist faith.
Yeah.
And
Guyana,
had been suppressed for centuries, and only I would say about maybe 15 years ago they actually became one of the recognized faiths, and so now they have their own public holiday. Trinidad has a lot of public holidays for all the religious faiths, so the Shango Baptist people have their day as well, and it's a national holiday for everybody, and they're recognized.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. See, Cuba, I went to Cuba about 2006. That was actually one of the starting adventures of I've got to get out there now. And it wasn't even about going to Europe anymore. It's just about going as far as you can.
Yeah.
And it was interesting with the Cuban people, because I didn't know about all this communism. I didn't really look too much into it. I knew what it was, but I thought they were three of people. The three people, don't get me wrong, but you know, I found at the time that if you speaking to a local Cuban, not where you're just buying and selling, sometimes they were a bit wary of being seen talking to you because you're not from that country. And I don't mean the local person who's trying to sell you something. I just mean like when you become friends with people, and you know, and I was quite surprised. And we had to go on far trips to see the real Cuba. I had to leave the tourist area, and I wouldn't even call it tourist area because it wasn't a big tourist area, but I just had to go out there and see some real people. And
well, the trip that I did, we did not stay in any hotels. It was a tour company from Australia. And what they did, they organized accommodation at families' homes.
Oh, that's excellent.
Right. So there were, it's like guest houses, you know, a bed and breakfast. So it was at families' homes. So all the families' books, the decorations, everything, you know, mom and dad would come and serve you breakfast. And so that I found really interesting, because you got to sit down at a real table, you know. Well, we didn't eat with the family, but it was in their homes. So you could snoop around, look at the books, look at the family photographs. And so I really enjoyed that. And we went to many different towns. And even though we were in a bus, maybe about 20 people, when we got to the town, 2 went to this family, 2 went to the next family, and we would only meet, you know, as a group, maybe to do a tour. But other than that, you're free to roam around. So I didn't find the people. Now, I don't know, the year that you went, maybe they were more restricted, but
2006, that was.
Right. So I went in 2019.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
so I found the people free enough to have their enterprise, their bed and breakfast.
yeah,
And I think that is freedom in itself, because they can make income from that. Of course,
yeah.
COVID kind of shut that down, but it's I didn't find them restricted. But of course, in a 2-week trip, it's not the same as living there. But
Oh yeah, of course.
the feeling that I got was that they had a relative amount of freedom, a certain amount of freedom that I didn't think I would see. People dancing in the street, practicing for a show and all that. So I have lots of
Yeah.
videos of just people living their lives, just ignoring the tourists, basically, as we walk
Yeah.
around. I
Oh
kind
yeah.
of blended in, so they didn't know if I was Cuban or not, based on
That's it.
the clothes that I wore.
Well, it makes it easier when you can kind of blend in places.
Yes.
European in Cuba, you stand out miles away, or if you go anywhere around the world and get treated like one of their own.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you would blend in, they would never know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of places people will tell me,
Yes.
don't talk, don't let people hear your voice, and just be quiet, and you'll blend in.
Yes.
And it did work, so. And it was one of the first proper adventures when I went out there, and at time Castro was in. It probably would say, because he went 299, it would be the restrictions like easing off probably from the time I went to.
Yes,
when
yes.
you want.
It's probably more free at this point in time.
Yeah.
We went to many cities, and I was quite impressed with the architecture, and the variety of architecture in different cities. And our tour guide was quite good in explaining the history of each location. So it wasn't a sunsy and fun place. We didn't stay at any beach or anything like that. We went to like a town called Trinidad. We went to Vinales. We walked on a farm. It was just getting to know the country. And what surprised me there too is that even though it's a Caribbean country, their culture, a lot of it is rooted in Spanish culture, especially the food. So the food is quite bland, and they're unaware of the spices and seasonings that people would use throughout the Caribbean. They just don't know anything about them, nothing.
Same with Dominican Republic was like that. The food was very bland, and it's that Spanish influence, like you just said.
Yeah.
Very bland, the food.
Yes, yes. And they didn't know about spices. They didn't know that. I found it strange that they didn't know, like, for example, the cocoa pod. We stopped by a roadside stand. The tour guide visited her friend. She said, buy stuff from a friend, little snacks and all that. And so the girl had some cocoa pods there, and I said, let's cut it open. I bought one, I'll cut it open and show them how to eat the flesh off of the cocoa bean. That flesh is sweet and you can actually taste it. And they were saying, no, we don't eat that. And I said, yes, you can eat it. They never knew it was possible to eat that white flesh off the cocoa bean, when you open a ripe pod. They're unaware of a lot of things that Caribbean people know. Okay. So that surprised me. And so sometimes you see them lining up for food to buy, limited amounts of flour and things like that. The government stipend would give them a little bit of everything, a little bit of rice, a little. So they're standing up for these rations in long lines, unaware of the other food that they can eat and grow because they're a Caribbean country.
Yeah.
They don't know what the other Caribbean countries
are doing, don't you know?
So that surprised me when it came to food.
Well, that's interesting because they should know what to do. In the Caribbean, I mean, you've got Jamaica, Trinidad, Bobby. Everyone can cook good food. So that is like, I had that experience where I remember being in the hotel, eating some of the food in Cuba, and the rice was very dry, how they were eating. And the best thing with fish, that was the best thing. And I just couldn't believe it, but the Spanish influence, they need to learn how to cook some good
Yes,
food.
yes.
Definitely. I mean, also, this picture, by the way, this is in Gambia, on the
Okay.
way to go and visit Kunta Kinte. Now, the ferry, we have to get on, and the ferry is jam-packed, practically stood up all the way. Just crosses the river, and then you get to the other side, and then there's a couple of people there because the ferry doesn't actually, you have to like get off in, well, the water's like up to about your shoulders or something.
What?
So, well, about maybe a little lower.
Or you had to walk out in the water?
Now, what happens is a couple of the people from Gambia are waiting there for you to put you on their shoulders.
Oh.
So you'll jump on the shoulders and they'll walk you to the beach. And I'm looking about and I can see people, come on, jump on mine. You give them a tip, of course.
Yeah.
Now, I'm looking at different people and thinking, he doesn't look like he could hold my weight. So I looked at this other guy, a really big Gambian. I thought, oh, okay, I had to jump on his shoulders, and he took me to the other side. And then obviously you give them a tip. And
yeah,
it was interesting that even like coming back, the ferry broke down or weren't working. So we've had to take like one of them long boats.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just like jam-packed. And then luckily the ferry started working again. Then we jumped on the ferry. And it's at the end of the day, when it comes to things like technology and that, it's a shame, such a lovely country, lovely people in. And that was my actual first experience going what we call sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
I visited Morocco before, and that, but first sub-Saharan country was Gambia. And
a lot of African Americans are moving to the Gambia because the cost of living is quite low.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, everything I found cheap out there. And, we stayed in where we traveled to, we knew some local people who were there, and they took us to, like 3-hour drives, and they were cooking for us. Like, this is the house where they were cooking for us. And one of the ones with the dreadlocks, it was his sister who works in the fish market. So he was getting us all the good fish, all the Scotch bonnets, all the great, everything he had that was great and fresh. And he said, I'm going to cook you a lovely meal. And to sit there with them, eating with them, traditional style off the same plate. And, it's nothing better than that. We talk about rich cultures. This is what a rich culture is. It's not about materialistic, and it's much more than that. And they're very, very friendly people. Majority of the country are Muslims. Yeah. Now, but it's not in your face, though.
Okay. So it's not fanatical.
Yeah. Now, if it was fanatical, I would have a bit of a problem because, I like to be a free person, whatever. So, and
I found in Ghana, the Christians were bordering on fanatical. The huge billboards, everywhere. And loud noise, loud gospel music. It was quite the experience, fanatical.
Yeah. See the kids. This is just kids out in the villages.
Okay.
I don't know who teaches them how to put the fingers like that. This is where the roots taught us, Kunta Kinte. A lot of these places were dungeons, they kept them in. Kunta Kinte Island, the Flash. And it's just really so sad. This is moving on to Kenya. The Maasai tribes in Kenya, what an experience. You can see the milk of the cow. And it's amazing, they use the cow's blood, mix it with the milk to preserve for 8 days. And, keep the milk fresh, no refrigerator,
Wow.
And these Maasai people, just amazing. The Maasai, to explain them, they are predominantly a Nilo-Saharan type, Nihilistic,
Yes.
where you have other people who are Bantu who went there too, came from West Africa, Central Africa. And then supposedly the original people were the Khoisan, that's what we say. But I don't see any Khoisan about. These most either being displaced or the being dispersed somewhere else. And interesting to learn about their God, because that's one thing I'm most looking for, the African spirituality. So in Kenya, we do get African spirituality. We get it through the Masaya, or you could even get it through other Africans that are passed in, the Bantu had a matrilineal system, so a lot of similarity.
Yeah.
And their God is duality. So their God can do good things and bad things. But it's more all relating to the forces of nature. A metaphor, God is nature, very similar. It's the creator is nature, basically. It's not like a man in the sky or, and it was just excellent. I've never met such people with such hospitality, how much you can learn off these people.
Yeah.
It's just unlimited learning from these people. They always do a big jump as well.
Okay.
They always do jump into the air.
Yeah.
I do a couple of jumps with them and that, up and down, some exercise. And the children, you see a little burn on the face, side the cheek, and it's like look like a little hot iron, little tiny small, like the tribal mark. And I said, that looks quite cruel. Just give my opinion. And he said, the reason why we're doing it, it's not cruel. We do this because there's so many villages, there's so many tribes, there's so many different people, so many different places. If the child gets lost, we need to identify which tribe and area the child is from.
Yeah.
Now that opened my mind up to think, well, okay, I get it now. It's not cruel. You're doing something because obviously you want people to recognize where you're from, where your child from, in case you get lost, and you can return the child back. Makes sense, and this is something that existed for 5 years.
Yeah, I have one Ghanaian friend who has the mark on her face for her tribe.
Sorry, how old? Sorry.
How old is she? She's in her 60s. So she got that mark as a child.
Oh yeah, from a child you get it.
Yes. So she's from the Ga tribe. The Ga people on the waterfront in Accra.
Oh, okay, yeah. And what's their tribal mark? Is it like a line, is it? Or
yes, it's like two lines.
2 lines, yeah. Interesting, like tribal marks. And to some people it looks cruel, but that's from our Western perspective.
Yes.
Much more to it than that. And now this gentleman is the man who took us on our tour. Now he's considered himself a Bantu Kenyan. He's one of the ones who are from the area where we're from, West Africa, Central Africa, these areas. And he moved into Kenya about, say, 1000 BC, could even be earlier, 2000 BC. You see different dates. And this is the largest migration of Africans in the whole of Africa, the Bantu people.
The Bantu, okay.
Yeah, very, very important. And they're so underrated. They're very underrated because nobody's done a migration like this and it's still left their prints of Bantu people all around Africa. Even in ancient Egypt, they considered Ramses the Third as being related to the Bantu. Okay. And also linguistics that tied into Uganda, the Congo area and that. So this is all doing our research ourselves. And that's what we need to do. Now in Kenya, you can see this, I'm coming back on the safari now. I'm looking at a bus on the left. I can see the van on the right. You can see how close we are.
Yes.
So we're behind this and I'm thinking, we're behind this for hours. And if you see on the floor, it's like muddy kind of.
Yes.
It's very dangerous. And then there's a big drop on the left. So I'm just hoping our driver's going to get us there safely and back, which he did do. But it was a tough journey. Some of these journeys are really rough journeys because we went to a safari. We wanted to see some animals. Then we said, we're going to see the Maasai tribe. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see no lions or nothing like that, you know. And also in Zanzibar, now this is a man called Mo. He owns the foreign exchange, he owns many properties, and it was good to meet a rich African. When people say Africans are very poor, and he tell me that he went to live in Canada, made up money, and then came back to spend it back home wisely, which I thought is amazing. I've still got his telephone number somewhere, and this is a person, if I ever went to Zanzibar, I'll make sure to link up with these people. And you'll have Maasai tribes there too.
Okay.
You know, tribes travel now. A lot of these guys from mainland Tanzania come to Zanzibar to work, to pay, and you avoid like the mainland. There you go, Maasai tribes again.
Yes, tall and skinny.
They all travel. It's very slim, like you just said, yeah. Where West Africans are more strongly built.
Yes, yes, different.
You can see that. You know, that's cattle head. And he's very tall. And a lot of people asked me how tall he was.
Well, have you seen videos of the people from South Sudan? Really tall, all 7 feet tall.
Yeah, very big.
And skinny and dark.
Yeah, very big. Now, I think they are the Nilo-Saharan, but they could be mixed with Bantu. So I'm going to actually research more about them, because you do get different peoples in Sudan.
I will send you some links for a Ghanaian YouTuber that I follow called Wodemaya.
Okay.
And he has traveled to most of the African countries. So he was recently in South Sudan and went all over filming. So I'll send you some links. You would find them very interesting.
Yeah, and this is Madagascar. Now these tribes there in Madagascar, they're quite sure people. These are the indigenous people of Madagascar. And you get many stories about Madagascar, and because people came from Indonesia to Madagascar 5 years ago, and people came from Africa, and they have a dispute of who got there first. Now, it's pretty obvious who got there first. You know, Indies are very far, and West and East Africa is right there.
Yes.
And so it's a silly argument, but people like to make controversy over this. It's like they make controversy over the Bantu migration. It's everything that we're involved in. Ancient Kemet, Egypt, where Nosy built these pyramids, it must have been someone outside. And this
aliens.
Aliens, you say aliens, but us, you know, it's really.
I like to say aliens because they can't believe humans built them.
Yeah, these are called the Sakalava tribe in Madagascar. And very interesting people. Sometimes I'll have a talk to them on the Zoom, because I've got a friend there who keeps us in touch, and you know, they're interested in cultural exchanges. So that would be a definitely good thing. Unfortunately, we went through this pandemic, and then a lot of plans went another way. And yeah, and this is Menga in Madagascar, Menga, and it's just, this is very different because we stayed in Antananarivo. This is the big city, Antananarivo, large population. You know what these big cities are like, you know, it's always hustle and bustle.
Yes.
You know, it's too much poverty, too much begging. But I enjoyed these areas more than Menga. Very hilly, rough kind of journey. We didn't have the best vehicle to go there anyway, but more than Menga I was just happy to get out of that crazy city, you know. It was just amazing. People from other parts of Madagascar, and a lot of them speak French, where there's only a few people who speak English, and this made it very difficult. I was using Google Translate, so through Google Translate, you know, we got by quite well. And this is just basically, you just come to a local restaurant. You have to feed 15 children, basically. We've gone in there, and then we just noticed children over there, no parents around them, hungry, came over. So we fed 5 of them. Another 5 came, fed them, another 5. So we just take, you know, you can see how much they're suffering. The advantages we have living where we live to the advantages, the disadvantages, what they have, you know. So it was nice to like see them, you know, and there's only so much you can do.
Mhm.
You know, I love the lemurs as well. I love them lemurs.
Or the animal there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just
Is
interesting
it
there.
a pet? Somebody's pet?
You know, it's actually like a national park, and you have lemurs there. You have a few, well, giant tortoises, and there's quite a
Oh,
few
okay.
different animals in there. You know, but I did like Madagascar. It's a very different kind of place, and
So is it
just
like the Caribbean?
um, not quite like it. The food's even different as well. This is another thing where we expect African food to taste a particular way. Madagascar food is not really all that, and I wonder, like, well, who are these influences? Now we go to the French now, you know, so the French are influenced there. You know, obviously you've had people from Asia there as well. So, but the food is not really enjoyable. Like, no one can cook like West
Oh,
Africans or people from Central Africa. The same with, to be honest, some parts of East Africa, I find the West Africans are the better cooks, much better, a lot
yeah,
more
well, they
better.
use more spices and chili pepper in West Africa.
Yeah, and then African Mauritians, people in Mauritius, Africans who were taken there into slavery around the 1600s, you know, and so, but they still keep the culture, you know, it's still the, have the music, how they dress, traditional, you know, but I did like Mauritius, but I'd say Africans make up about 30% are from Mauritians. Majority of people are from India, you know,
Yes.
same with Trinidad, Guyana, where they brought over indentured labor in the 1800s. But and now this person, the reason why I took this photograph, this is a Mauritian who is descendant of an India. Now I'm looking at him thinking, you look like a black man. I mean, when I've seen him, he just, so he's telling me about there's a lot of people. I know some of them called Dravidians in India, Dalits, and you know they have different names.
Yes.
But as I said, I've got to get a picture of you because you just look like the original Indian. You know, that
Yeah, there's
when
one area in South India where you have, but they're actually descendants of Africans, but
yeah,
they live and eat. Their whole life is like the typical Hindu. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw some nice videos about these people
Mm,
recently. I saw that online.
yeah. So there's more Afro Mauritians, and it was nice to connect with these people. You know, because everyone was just great spirit, and it's a lovely place, Mauritius. And there's another African Mauritian.
Yeah.
She was just like the queen and that. But it's just great that they remember where they're from. You know, they all remember. Then you've got the drummers, African dancers, traditional. And it was just amazing. And I'll definitely go back there. Okay, we're in Mexico now. Just slides everywhere. Did you go to Mexico yourself? Was it?
Oh, yes, yes.
Which
Did
part did
I
you go
didn't
to?
put it on the list. Maybe I forgot. Oh,
Yeah,
yes, I
yeah.
think I put it on
I
the
think
list.
you might have. What part of Mexico did you go to? Was it
I the first time I went, it was Mexico City,
Mexico City?
Taxco, and
Yeah,
Acapulco. So it was a
Acapulco.
tour.
Yeah.
And on that tour, in Mexico City, we went to the Pyramids of Teotihuacan,
Wow.
just outside the city. And there, at that time, they were saying they didn't know who built the pyramids of
Wow.
Teotihuacan because it wasn't the Aztecs. Those pyramids were there before the Aztecs. Can you
Okay.
imagine? While Chapultepec Park in the middle of the Mexico City and all that was built up by the Aztecs. So there was a lot of mystery around the pyramids of Teotihuacan, and maybe they solved it by now because this was a long time ago. I went, I guess it was late 80s. I went with my mom. I was lucky. One of her friends got ill, and they didn't want to waste the ticket, so I got to go. And I'll never forget the trip. And Taxco to the silver mining city up in the mountains. Spanish architecture. It's a city built against the hills, and the streets are very narrow. So the taxis there were the little love bug, you know, those little Vauxhall cars.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they use as taxis in that particular town.
In that town, yeah.
Because it's very, very narrow streets. So I remember
And these
visiting those old traditional towns. And then when we got to Acapulco, it was so Americanized. It wasn't very nice until we left the hotel and the tourist area and just hopped on a bus just to see where we'd end up. I like to do things like that.
Yeah.
And before I know it, we were with the locals in a whole area behind the big hotels and restaurants and all that where regular people live. So that was exciting.
Did you see any of the indigenous peoples? Well, this is
a
Mayan. We went Chichen Itza, and also another area called Tulum. And you know, there was too many sites to be honest.
Yes.
I wanted to do more sites, but there's just too many to do.
Yes,
Didn't even realize that.
But I lived in California for 6 years. I was working in California in the fruit and vegetable industry.
Yeah.
And I lived in a town called Oxnard.
Yeah.
And in Oxnard, it was mostly Mexicans, like 90% Mexican and 10% people like me.
Yeah.
So it was like actually living in Mexico, but you're in the United States. You had the little plazas and squares all around Oxnard, and the Spanish men with their sombreros, they'd sit there, you know, the old papi would sit there, hang out with friends.
Yeah.
And every Friday night, the mariachi bands would come out in their full suits and walk from bar to bar and sing. Wow. And on Saturday mornings, they would have people selling tripe soup. They call it menudo by the street corners, because after they drink all night, then they have to drink this soup, and it's supposed to just kind of heal the stomach after a night of drinking. So living in Oxnard, California was like being in Mexico. And the company I worked for, you know, I had to travel to Salinas Valley, and it was a different type of Mexican you'd see in Salinas with different Mexican food. It was very different Mexican food to the Mexican food in Oxnard. And all of this is in California. If you remember, California used to be owned by Mexico before the US grabbed it and made it one of the states.
That's right.
So these people have been there for centuries. And in different parts of California, you would find different descendants of different types of Mexicans.
I did see a lot of Mexicans when I went to California. I went to Los Angeles, and I seen all unbelievable amount of Mexicans. But that's their country, isn't it?
Yeah, they were there first.
Everything. Yeah.
Before everybody else took it over.
That's it. This is just some people from Dominican Republic, and
yes,
you know,
I've been there.
Unfortunately, I was speaking to someone, and he said we don't have any indigenous peoples left, and I was quite disappointed when I was there. But I mean, they're being wiped out everywhere, aren't they? So now, what you will get now, you might not have the full-blooded indigenous people, but you get mixtures: African, Spanish, Native American.
Yes, so that's what you'd see in Cuba, in Trinidad. You have people who are
the same with that Cuba,
African and European.
Yeah, that's one of my cousins. He's a lot younger than me. I took him away, but come to Dominican, have a little experience, and you know, it opens the minds up, and that's what it's about. Cuba, I've got one picture left of Cuba. These are the new pictures, because we're going back years ago. I got 3. Moving on to Trinidad now.
Okay.
Now, Tobago, this is Tobago. I didn't go to the mainland.
You didn't go to Trinidad. You were just stuck in Tobago. That's too bad. It's too small.
And that was not the plan. The plan was to go to the mainland. But what it was is because I went away with my mother, my sister, my girlfriend, and you know, I couldn't leave them just in Tobago. I wanted to go. I had plans to be chief on the other side.
In Arima.
Arima. I had it all planned up to get picked up and got off the ferry. And also there was, you know, I'm getting phone call from back home. You better be careful. Very dangerous there. I went for the though. I mean, at the end of the day, this is my mission. It's my mission. You know, that's the way I kind of am. You know, but mainland Trinidad, I've definitely got to go there. That's the first time I'm fishing, and
Okay.
I love it the way they just cook your fish, for clean it, scale it, and they'll come cook it in your apartment. Very small price.
What town was this?
This is Tobago. Always stay in, not Pigeon Points. I actually forget the name. This
So
is the
close
area
to
where
the
we stayed
airport
away.
then.
Yeah, and you'd have a place called, this was Sunday school, they call it.
Oh yes, Sunday school, yes, with
Sunday
the
school.
dance and all that. So they
Yeah.
still have Sunday school. I remember that
Yeah.
all the way back in the 90s when they had this Sunday school.
I was thinking, when they said Sunday school, I'm like, that church or something. I'm thinking it's some boarding church and that, you know, but I had a great time there, was. And then this is a local Trinidadian. He started cooking for us. You know, he said, you can hire me anytime. They'll do barbecues, they'll cook in your apartment. And it was just excellent. Diamond, his name was. You know, he was very cool.
So
Really
he was a
enjoyed it.
Tobagonian.
Yeah.
We say Tobagonian to make the distinction between people from Trinidad and Tobago.
Right. And this, okay, I get it. Yeah. Now, this is a skeletal remains. I think it's Scarborough Museum. It is Scarborough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is a skeletal remains of an Amerindian, you know, going back to about 7th century AD. Kind of.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was happy to encounter them out there, just like the cannons, and I think that's
Right,
from
right.
is
Fort
it the
St.
French, the
George.
British, and yeah. So I just love just getting out to sea. Oh, now we're in Venezuela. This is about one picture they've got left of this 2008, and Venezuela. I liked it. You know, South America. I did enjoy it there. It was definitely a great place. Quite dangerous, but it was all right though. No.
Well, I went to Venezuela a long time ago when it was extremely prosperous. It had the 4th largest
Brazil, yeah,
economy in the West at the time, and
yeah.
Trinidadians used to go to Venezuela to shop and on vacation.
Ah, yeah.
There was one time that we
close.
were going over and over. So I went many times for shopping in Caracas, and it was
Caracas.
well developed, you know, with subway and lots of shops and beautiful city back in the day. One of the most beautiful cities. This was yes, the late 80s.
80s, right.
Yes. Beautiful.
So have you been to, so while we're in Asia, this is a slide of Sri Lanka now. And this is the area called Kuranagala, because I knew a shopkeeper in Liverpool 8, and he advised me I can meet up with his family, and I can live like them. He'll take me to meet the tribes. And
Where was this?
In Sri Lanka.
Oh, Sri Lanka.
Yeah, so I've landed in Colombo, but it wasn't the place I was staying. I'm staying in Kuranagala, about 3.5-hour drive. So when they picked me up about 12 in the night, I'm about to go on a long drive, about 3 hours, and there's no lights or nothing on this journey. Just trees, like, I don't even know how high these trees were, put up 200 foot or something, and there's no lights and just bushes everywhere. And I've never met these people who I'm in the car with. And, you know, they're saying, I think I was smoking at the time. Said, oh, you can't smoke in the car. You'd have to get out and smoke by the bushes. I was like, no, it was unbelievable. But met some good people there, you know, and it was great to be able to mix with.
I'm not hearing you. The volume is gone.
Volume up.
Okay, now I'm hearing.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm standing in that position because you can't have your back fully to the Buddha. It's disrespectful, you say. So I default, that's why I'm standing like that. Now, this Buddha statue, I was told that it is the largest Buddha statue today, sitting down Buddha in the world, carved out of rock.
Okay.
And it's not an old Buddha statue. It's only been built in the last 20 years or something like
It's
that.
a new one?
A new one, yeah. Yeah, so the original one that was the biggest, I think, was in Afghanistan, but that got blown up or something. That was in the past.
Conveniently.
Yeah, definitely. But
I tell you, the original Buddha
yeah,
had coiled hair like an African.
that's it.
dark
That's
skin,
right. Yeah.
Right? I had that discussion just this past week with a colleague who's from South India, Madras.
Right. Yeah.
So they know that the original Buddha was black.
Yeah.
And
most
had
definitely.
African hair. And mysteriously, he's changed into Asian type.
Well, this is, yeah, well, I can see what's happened there. It's because you say the Kushites in modern day Ethiopia, Sudan areas, they're supposed to have gone into ancient India and brought the civilization from the Nile Valley. And later on, they were able to make Buddha out of all this. And before Buddha, you had Krishna, Hinduism, and all these kind of relate to the ancient African civilization and the spiritual systems. And the Indians actually had a god called Marunde. And in ancient Ethiopia, you pray on the mountain, and that's a sacred place. And they would go back and forth through the monsoons, 6 months go to India, 6 months be able to go to Ethiopia. And that's how the continuous trade and connection went on. And now Buddhism, what happens there is this is the African trying to bring something back into India, where Hinduism, which came 1,000 years before Buddhism, went into a caste system because it was invaded by people from Central Asia, Indo-Aryan migration on horses, and they conquered India, put a caste system in, and basically had so many different castes. I think about 10 different castes they've got.
Yes.
And the bottom caste, they say that if you can be a Hindu, but you can't be respected as a Hindu. You can't go in the same places to pray as the other higher caste. And that was just unbelievable. And these people are the Veda. These are the Veda tribes of Sri Lanka. This is a very long drive. This is about 7.5 hours, close to 8 hours, 3 different buses. And the reason why we took the buses, because originally he had a car that he picked us up with, and he picked me up in a very expensive car from the airport. And I said, why have you got this car? It's very expensive. I've got to pay for it, by the way. So I said to them, take the car back and I'll just use public transport or jump on a motorbike. And it took about 7.5 hours, 3 buses. Then we get there, it was raining heavy that day. Then we had to jump on, you know what, tuk-tuk?
Yes.
You had to jump on a tuk-tuk. And it was raining, absolutely. But when you come so far on your journey, you don't turn back, do you?
Yeah.
You might as well continue your journey. Go through the storm or whatever, the rain or thunder. And then when you've done it and you've completed your mission, and when we got back, I was just so made to get back. These are rough journeys, and these are their hunting restrictions, a lot of hunting restrictions for them. And that's the family that I've been living around, this family. And this is one of them here is the brother of shopkeeper, and that's his mother. She recently passed away, his mother, recently. But he looked after me like him. I've just never had hospitality in some of these places.
Yes.
Everybody was like so genuine, cooking for me every day, making sure that I am okay every day.
Right.
They make a fuss over you. And if you look at some of the Sri Lankans, you'll see quite African looking people, some of them.
Yes. And
that's why I had to get a picture of this woman and I had to have a little chat with her. She said, there's many people like us, she's looking at me like, why do I even look surprised? But what makes you think though? I mean, you go to a country, you've got to travel different parts, or you've got to research at least to know where you're going. And they give me presents and everything. And this is an amazing picture that they give me. He just really looked after me. This is
like their little son.
Yeah, and I would definitely go back there, you know. This is Hong Kong. I didn't really like Hong Kong. I did,
But
there's
it's quite
nothing,
commercial, eh?
it's very commercial. It's like a fake China, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fake China. Even though it is China. But you try and talk like English people. People putting on dead posh accents. You
Oh,
know,
yes, yes. It's all about the money.
you were very impressed by English people, you know. Vietnam, and in Vietnam, I'm searching for the indigenous peoples. I'm looking at who is the most Africoid kind of people. So I'm looking, trying to find peoples. Now, these are called the Hmong tribe. So I thought before I visited these that they would look like some of the other indigenous peoples I visited in Southeast Asia.
Mhm.
Now, these are more like the Mongoloid type, meaning 2,000 years ago, they entered Vietnam from China. And this was an expansion where the ancient Chinese conquered the Vietnamese, basically. And this is mountainous areas. So where you've got the mountains in China, like Yunnan, these mountains kind of border. So you might get Hmong people from China, and you get some Hmong in Vietnam. And I'll tell you with these, it was not the most friendliest people I came across. Very, just like how some Chinese people are, where they have that particular way of, I don't know, I can't even describe how they are. Like, it's not friendly at all.
Mhm.
And I find, and I'm looking at the homes are very different to looking at what I see with the Mani tribe in Thailand or in Malaysia or in Jazuli. I'm just looking, and it's really bad weather. It was freezing up there because you go far. It must be got to be more than 1,000 feet high, possibly 2,000. I don't know, but you're passing all the rice farms to get to this area. And we went on a sleeping bus with bunk beds because you needed a bed on the bus. It was really
Oh,
rough, and you know, none of them were really friendly people. Those I was quite disappointed when it came, and I'm actually looking forward to getting the hell out of there.
well, not
You
everywhere
know,
the people friendly. Even in Ghana, in the
yeah,
in the city, I didn't find people particularly friendly unless they wanted to sell you something. You
yeah, yeah.
know?
Well, that's it. You know, it's about finding genuine people, and you don't. Everyone's always
Yes,
looking for something, aren't they?
that
Did,
wasn't easy.
did you ever go to Cambodia?
No, no, no. The three Asian countries I went to are Japan, India, and China. And I
Japan,
enjoyed
India, and China.
each location because they were structured tours with very good tour guides and all that. So I learned a lot on these trips.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
roam around by myself,
yeah. Okay.
but I enjoyed the trip because it was a lot of history and culture.
Ah, right, right. That's what
Like,
it's about, though.
yeah,
So with India, which part of India did you travel to?
yeah, it was what they call the Golden Triangle: Delhi, Agra, Jaipur.
Okay, okay.
Right.
Did
So
you
in
drive?
Delhi, we did tours and we went to this huge complex with a temple, which I think is more spectacular than the Taj Mahal. But you
Well,
just don't hear about it. But I found it really more beautiful than the Taj Mahal. Big Hindu temple. It was built in the 2000s. Doesn't get a lot of airplay in the West,
hmm,
but it's absolutely spectacular. The thing is, though, we're not allowed to take photographs.
okay.
And they are serious about it. No cell phones or anything, and they just take it away. Or you
That's
just leave it
bad.
for the tour bus.
That's bad. That's like, yeah. You know, people are paying to come on the tour, but you're not allowed them to take a picture.
No, this temple, the
Yeah.
temple itself is not you're not allowed to take they have okay, you could take a group picture at the front with their photographer, and that's it. So that's what we
Oh,
did.
okay. I get that. Yeah,
So
yeah,
at least we have the
yeah.
one photograph from the
Okay.
site. And it was very cheap, and all the gift shop and all that. Very, very cheap because a lot of schools go there, locals go there. But the Taj Mahal was spectacular, of course. And
Hmm.
we stayed at beautiful hotels, some are like palaces, former palaces of the Maharajas who lived in that area,
Wow.
which the state is called Rajasthan. And then we did fancy camping or glamping, as some people call it, because it's glamorous camping. So out in the desert, but the tents had air conditioning, which was nice, and
Right.
a shower.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Asia's quite. I like Asia though. It's a
yeah.
it's a really nice place, and depending on obviously where you're going, I found like Cambodia. This is definitely a place to visit. CMD.
Yes.
It's very Angkor Wat.
Yes. Yes.
I couldn't
lot of
believe
history.
I couldn't believe how big this place was as well. You need a whole day to venture around.
Yes, yeah, I saw a video about this, and they said even what is uncovered now, the complex is way bigger than that. It was a huge
Way
city.
bigger. And this is another area called the Bayon Temples. Now, these faces are like African, very Africoid features, a lot of these Bayon Temples.
Oh,
And this is like, you got Angkor Wat, but this is Angkor Thom. Then you have Angkor Prom. This is where the Angkor Prom, the tree of, the Tree of Tomb Raider movie. I haven't even watched the movie Tomb Raider, but a lot of people are saying this is off the movie called Tomb Raider.
okay.
The fig tree. It just goes. It's an amazing, spectacular piece of work. It's natural. And I find it very, very mysterious in these areas. Very mysterious. I definitely will go back there. And anyone who goes, I would advise you. Then you'd have the Khmer people, Khmers, the indigenous people of Cambodia, So there's plenty of people, and I try to find people who are the close to the indigenous peoples, because you can get a lot of people might look a bit Chinese looking, or they might look a bit Indian looking. And that's why you've just got to search, because we've got to search for truth. That's what we're there for. And a very interesting tree that we're going to come to now with this one.
Oh,
I was more fascinated with this tree than the other tree. I was amazed by this tree. I'm like,
so covered up the building. So the whole complex had been covered with these trees.
Yeah, well, probably even if you go back in the day as well, before it probably was more like a jungle there. Could have been, before when we go back in time. But I was just fascinated looking at this. This is like a sacred tree. There's something special about it. And then obviously moving on to tribes, like we said before. This is my cousin Daniel. And also in the middle, this is the Orange Asli tribe in Malaysia. The Orange Asli indigenous peoples, been there about 45 years, could be longer. And these peoples, I wanted to have a proper conversation with them of what do you believe? What is your knowledge of where you are from? They understand Africa is the birthplace of humanity. And they also understand the stories of science and comparative studies that they said, well, we could have come from South America. That's because they've been told that, not by their ancestors, by so-called researchers. And this is the longest canopy in the world. It's about 500 meters long, 500 meters wide, and 135 feet high in the air. About
Ghana has some nice ones. So in Kakum National
40 meters.
Park.
Yeah, and it's really scary. It's really scary on it. This is the chief. I met the chief in there of the Orange Asli tribe in Malaysia. And this is the canopy. This is Daniel on the canopy. You get to see a better bit. And you can hear it kind of crackle when you're walking in it. And you're like, oh my God, this drops. And it's 40 meters high with about 131 feet, 132. But it seems like the trees are so high in the air.
Yes. I like those. If you get a chance, you must go to Northern Ireland. There's a Carrick-a-Reid rope bridge, which is just like this, but it's over the water and it goes out to a rock. And so when you look down, all you see is the water. So it's really scary.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, you must do that.
Where's that? Sorry.
Rope bridge.
Where was that?
Northern Ireland.
Oh, Northern Ireland.
Yes, yes.
Wow. Okay.
I lived in Ireland for 7 years and I roamed all over. I could do tours of Ireland. Okay. I knew it very, very well.
Yeah. You liked Ireland?
Oh, I loved it. Not just I loved it.
Wow.
Second home.
Yeah. Okay. I don't really have too many things about it. I mean, I have a family member who lived there. Do you like how it is and that? And back to him saying, like we were talking when I was showing you the Hmong peoples of Vietnam, it wasn't friendly. Now, when I come across these peoples, they are extra friendly. And how I kind of figure things out is that the oldest people of the land are much more nicer than the newer people who came in. Because the newer people, it's just, they're not interested in your culture or how your country runs. They are just interested in they're new coming into your country and they like to change things for their sake. That's basically what it is, really. And it's a Mongolian invasion which existed, you know, when the Mongolians were moving into Asia, China, Japan, Southeast Asia, you know. So this is why you see some of the people as a Southeast Asia, they look kind of Chinese looking, a bit kind of, you know, they have like a mixture look a bit.
Yeah.
But this is a beautiful rainforest. Then it gets ladders, it goes even higher. Yeah. I was terrified. Now this picture here is the chief. And I've zoomed in on the picture to him because he was this is the first time I did a tour. I don't usually do tours. I just take myself there or get a hire the driver. So he points out and said, "This is the chief." So I sees him on this high hill, takes a picture. And I took the picture in case you don't get to meet him because of whatever reason. So then once I took the picture and I started working my way towards him. And a lot of the tour man was like, "Be careful, they might harm you or I might harm them." I said, "Don't worry about that, I'm here for a different reason." Went up there, got a picture with them, met more of the tribes. And then that's the picture I got with him there when I got to the top. So he was trying to stop me from meeting these people. But you have that connection. There's just that connection. They know.
Yes, they look more African.
Yeah. And they just see us one as the same. They don't look at language, barriers and stuff. You can see who they're originally from Africa, but all originally from Africa, And the rainforest was just amazing. When you can taste the air.
Yeah.
It tastes really nice here. And these people are so happy. You can pay them £10 because they've been introduced money to them now. You can pay them £10 to stay in one of their huts for the night.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's worth it. Just if you have a fear of tigers and snakes, be careful. I think we all do. Because you have a lot of tigers for the blowpipe you use to kill the tigers.
Oh.
Like a blow darts. And I mean, I'd freeze if I seen a tiger. I can't imagine myself getting a blowpipe together and all that. Hindu, there's a lot of Hinduism out in Malaysia.
In Malaysia,
yeah. Very strong Hinduism actually out there. And it's just an amazing rainforest, excellent people, friendly. That's the blowpipe or the blowgun, sometimes you call it. And Daniel with me, you have to go across the boat to see the other side. Some of the youth there. Now we're moving into this is Indonesia now, and I'm looking for Black people of Indonesia. Okay. So I'm coming across the odd people as I'm moving around the streets and just going on long drives, and they would just say, "We're all the same as you." And I love that when they say that. They identify with different people, they identify with us wherever we are in the world, we're one people, so that was great. And then they were, very friendly people, yeah. just going to a bar. He was from Papua New Guinea. He
Oh,
was from
really?
Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
So I've made up to meet some people from Papua New Guinea there, you know. That was an interesting one. This is the Aborigine Australia in
Okay.
Indonesia. This is before I went to Australia, then I went to Australia a year later.
Yes.
But I was made up to encounter them, learn the stories. And, you know, it was just really great people. It was. Now, Thailand, these are the Mani tribe. Mani tribe, been there 35 to 40,000 years, could be longer, like I say. There's only about 300 of these people left. Now, these are endangered species, very endangered. And what's happened is over the years, you know, like remember, like you had the communism wars and the 70s times and that. And a lot of them had to move from the areas that they lived in because a lot of the areas were getting bombed, the guerrillas against the Thai government, and a lot of them, they were using the Mani places as bases, you know, so they really lived a tough life. Very happy people, very spiritual, just about nature. So I got there in the nighttime, which I didn't plan. I didn't plan to get there in the nighttime, but there's no more buses to come back, so I had to stay up there. But that was all part of the experience, which I figured out when after I'd done the trip.
So you had to sleep in the hut?
Yeah, like a local hut. It's about 5 minutes from where they were. I could have stayed with them, but what it was is because I've entered in the middle of the night. They basically are like, I've kind of woke them up a bit, you know what I mean? So I've had to like go to a local place. They were a bit tired and that. But they were just like, what I done with them, I showed them on the phone a lot of pictures of people from different parts of the world. So I was showing them pictures of African people. I was showing them some of them indigenous peoples in Malaysia, Philippines, and whatever else. And they were like, wow, we're happy you came here today. You came here and showed us something.
So they have no access to technology.
That's it, you know, so it's when we go visit these types of people, we have to remember they do not think like your average person that we come across. Only to eat, hunt, or do normal things, but you know, that's why it's about educating them. Then we move to the Philippines. You have the Eta people, Eta of the Philippines, and these are very friendly people. You live in mountainous areas, about 6-hour drive to get there. And if you just look at what they look like, you can just clearly see the family, you know, there's no hiding it. Nice old lady, you know, she was very friendly, yeah, she was. And they have lots of good stories as well, these people. I love the stories. And they believe in, now there's different groups of these people, Etas, and where some believe that good and evil is ruling the world. Then some believe that it's a supreme being that's ruling the world. So you get similar stories, but I more try and deal with which are the older stories. I want the older stories. I don't want the modern stories where so many different tribes split up and then you form your own stories by splitting up. I want to know when you're all together, because these are the later group to who I showed you, the Mani in Thailand, and also the Asli in Malaysia. The related groups, so they would have been one and the same and have the same culture and traditions going way back. And they have crazy typhoons there, and you know, these are very, they've got to be careful with where they are. There's quite a few Eta people. And then you've got people called the Eta, and very similar names. But I've reading the numbers that they reckon that's about, could be up to 20,000 of these people. That's very
short, tiny
very
people.
very short a minute, you know, and
look at them.
Average one, that's my cousin who talk with me. Average one, I'd say about 4 feet.
Right.
Or 4.5 feet. Yeah. And then Singapore, I'm looking for the dark skinned people in Singapore because it's doing me head in where people are saying the Chinese are running it. And I'm like, no, I will go on a search and I'll have the talk with them, and they're just laughing their head off at like, oh, you're looking for those? I said, yeah, I'm looking for you, people like you. unlike me. So, you know, Fiji Islands, amazing afros. Fijian people are just so easygoing. Melanesia, which is in the South Pacific, you know, and then you have Polynesia, Micronesia. But these are very friendly people, and I love that they say we come from Africa. That was like really special when I heard that. They ask you, where are you from? I say, I'm originally African. We're African too. So just like the connections there.
Oh, okay.
And
Did you
afros are
ever
considered,
get to Egypt,
chief.
where you have the really Black Egyptians, Nubians? Did you ever go
Nubians.
to that area?
I haven't actually been to Egypt. I was meant to go last year, but unfortunately I wasn't able to go. But Egypt has been on my list for a long time, long overdue, and I need to get out.
Yes, I want to go as well. I want to visit the Nubians, and I saw a video just last week with one vlogger who was in the area with the Nubians and filming. Very few tourists around, but she was there and she filmed them. I'll send you the link first. That I think you would like to see. And they're endangered people too. Very few remain.
They live in Aswan as well.
Aswan, yes.
Aswan, yeah. So if I did do Egypt, I've got to go to check the pyramids out in Cairo and around these places and the Sphinx. But then I've got to go to, I'll probably get a flight to where the Nubians are in Aswan.
Yes.
Because you've got to, it's funny how like they're so south, aren't they? They're in the south, but then a lot of the work's in the north, the pyramids and.
Apparently they were pushed out.
Yeah. It's, you know, if you look at the past, how many times has Egypt been invaded? You can go on forever. The Arabs, Turks, Hyksos, Persians, Greeks, Romans, the Sea Peoples. You can just go on forever with these Assyrians. And, you know, this is the chief of the Fiji Islands. This is in the area where Vite Level, I can't even really say the name properly, but it's quite close to the First Landing Hotel. And it was great to meet the chief. That was local people who got me to meet the chief because of seeing the exchange of knowledge that we were having. And he said, we're going to take you to meet the chief. And then this is the man in the colorful shirt on this side is spokesman. Then the other guy next to me is the warrior of the tribe. Then the guy next to him, he's just part of the brotherhood. He didn't say too much. But and then go to the Fijian people's houses, traditional Fijian meal, amazing, spectacular. You know, he'd say, don't leave the table until you've ate all your food. And that's why they're so big, these people.
Yeah, they eat a lot.
They eat a lot, yeah. Good friend of mine, Sayatola Kama. I go and see him. I've been there twice, you see, Fiji. This is the first time. And something told me to go back. That's why I went back there. And a very spiritual connection I get with the people and that. I thought that was, you know, the fish, amazing.
Oh, what kind of fish is that?
I have to backtrack now. I can't even remember. Do you know any fish that look like that?
It looks like from the dinosaur era, that shape of the head.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it does. It's an unusual looking fish, but it did taste good. That's one thing I'll say. First Landing Hotel. And this is the day as I'm going. I'm getting ready to go home, missing the people already. And then I will be back, I told them. I came back 18 months later. And Rastas, this is the second time I went back. And the first time I went 2013, then I went back 2015. And Rasta Fijians, you know, I like to see, very interesting because I like to see whatever our culture, I like to see anywhere in the world, you know. And they identified. The second time I went back to Fiji, I met the chief again and the chief's wife. I was with my girl, you know what I mean? So it was excellent. It was really definitely worthwhile to meeting these people. It's like things were meant to be. And then Tonga, we moved to Tonga. This is a good friend, Motti, who owns the guest house we stayed in. And good entrepreneur, he owns his own hostel. We can stay for next to nothing, he'll cook for you. take you on tours where they took me to see the Stonehenge and this 3-step pyramid and a lot of other artifacts and structures out there. And he's in a wheelchair, unfortunately, but he's a very nice man, looked after us. And he told me to come back there. He wanted me to come in the winter to Tonga. And I said, why do I want to come in the winter? He says, because you can swim with the whales.
Oh.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Sounds like a great experience, but I don't think I quite need that experience, you know. And the fish that they were just, just catching fish, just cleaning the fish. This is in the hostel, one of his workers there. And I can't believe how much he got looked after in these places. Very friendly Tongan people. And I'm looking for people who are like Black people in Tonga, because you get like that Polynesian, some of them could be mixed with like Chinese, Oriental or something, or Japan even, you know what I'm saying? So I'm always trying to find them. This is his nephew.
Well, have you been to Hawaii? Because they're the original people with dark skin with curly hair, and
I did go Hawaii. Yeah, I did go Hawaii. I've got the odd little slides in of Hawaii because, like you say, it's very hard to find the First Peoples. It's not easy. It's not an easy task.
Yes, they were pushed out, but I saw pictures of the last queen on the internet.
Oh yeah. Queen. She gives with the L. Latuka. I can't even say the name. It's about difficult names. But yeah, that was back in the 1800s, the late 1800s, and I've seen that a Black lady as a queen.
Yes.
And it's funny how you can just try to erase history though. And you get so many people going along with erase history, or people don't care.
Yes, well, the thing is, it is erased, except it was erased, let me put it that way. But now with internet, we have access to the information.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't easily accessed in the past.
Yeah.
So there was erasure, and now we have to relearn everything.
These are called flying foxes.
Okay.
They're like bats.
Oh, bats.
They're like bats, but you see them in the daytime, just hang them, but they're called flying foxes.
Oh.
Unusual. And then they have fish and pigs. You go fishing the pigs.
Oh.
Fishing pigs. It's unbelievable things. This is the 3-step pyramid. So these would have been burials for the monarch, going back over the 1,000 years ago and that. Stonehenge, just like we've got Stonehenge in England. But this is a lovely Stonehenge, this one. This one is like a bunch of, the one we've got in England is looked at special, does it? But this is something about this though. And
and this is Fiji?
No, Tonga.
Oh, Tonga.
It's only 1 hour from Fiji.
Oh, okay.
1 hour, because when I went to Fiji, I went to Tonga. That's considered as Polynesian, it comes in there. And that's the South Pacific also. Just like, now this is Hawaii now. And this is a Samoan. I'm looking for, trying to do me same job. I'm asking where are the indigenous Hawaiians, and I'm trying to search for them. There's a Hawaiian here. I just do my best to find them. Do you know what I mean? This is a Hawaiian, but you can see he's like a lot later. Asian looking, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we move on to Micronesia. Another part of the Pacific. Now these people here, they call themselves Chimadas, the ones who don't look like indigenous. They call themselves Chimadas, meaning the mixture of the Spanish and the indigenous peoples. And now this is an indigenous Micronesian.
Yeah.
And in Guam, this is in Guam. Now Guam is it's a lot of the Navy now there, the American Navy, a lot of them, So these kind of people don't get treated too good. And they're from like islands like Palau, and they'll bring them in, they can work in Guam. But how these people get treated is disgusting. I have people saying to me, why do I want to visit these peoples? And so I got to see another side of how they speak about these peoples. A lot of people are trying to put me off, but they're very friendly people, but I could see that they were quite afraid being in my company,
Mhm.
where say like we'll go out somewhere, I could see them really like looking over the shoulder because they're terrified of the American Navy for some reason. You know, they're not doing
No
nothing wrong.
trust.
Yeah, it's a trust thing. You know, Micronesians. Yeah, these are some local ones on the streets. You know, these call themselves Chimodas. It's just this mad name, Chimodas. You know, that was my cousin, that father's with them. Yeah. And now we move into, this is like Aboriginal Australians in Australia. Very interesting stories, very interesting. And I hate to see them when they're on the streets. You know, you see them on the streets begging, alcoholics, on drugs or something. And it really hurts you. It's very hurtful to see these people's, you know, and I love the wildlife again, you know, koala bears, I love them.
So
The
how
Blue
long you
Mountains,
stayed there?
only stayed there about a week, because what we done, we went to Singapore, then over to Australia, then to Fiji, then to Tonga.
Okay, so it's just a few days in each location.
Yeah, but Fiji, we went there about a week. Tonga, we were there 5 days. Singapore was only a couple of days. Then we were there about a week. But I liked it. You're saving a lot of money when you do trips like that. That was just Los Angeles, California, on the streets there. Hollywood. I bought a suit there.
You look like Mr. Hollywood in that picture.
I tell you. This is
In
2012.
your suit.
Oh yeah. Just trying to play the part, isn't it? You know, you're in Hollywood, play the movie. That's it. Crete, you know, and Crete's an interesting one for African history because the earliest European civilization was Crete, coming from Africa, you know, so Crete's an interesting one. Look for dark skin Cretes, trying to do my best, he's the best I can find. So, you know, but
Wait, is this in Crete?
Now this is the real, you see my leg, I got my leg trapped in a wheel. This is when I was 21. This is going back 2002. And this was the worst experience of all the places I've been to. One of my earliest experience, get my leg trapped in a motorbike. And that was, never forget that one. Horrible experience. Yeah. So that's it. That's just a little slideshow anyway. No, so I like to show different people's different things of the world, and that's what I'm about. But I must ask you, I need to know about what was Japan like and China.
China,
That's what I'd like
it
to
was
know.
an amazing trip, well organized. We had one of the best deals I could think of, from Toronto all the way to Shanghai.
Yeah.
10 days, 5 cities. We went to Shanghai, Beijing, Wuxi, Hangzhou, and Suzhou for 1,100 Canadian dollars, staying in 4-star hotels. Wow. And with breakfast and some lunches and dinners. It was just the most amazing trip for very little money. And our tour guides were excellent. We had one tour guide who took us around Shanghai and the towns near Shanghai. One of my favorites was Suzhou. They call it the Venice of the East because they have canals just like Venice. So we did the canal boat rides round and round all the canals and old structures, you know, lots of history. It was very safe, which I liked.
Shanghai.
The tour guide would tell us, you know, go in the mall, walk around, go wherever you want and just call a taxi when you're ready to go back to the hotel, you know. So very safe. No, there was no reason to fear for your safety. People were quite excited to see me because they're not used to seeing Black people. So Chinese tourists kind of rushed me at somebody else, at somebody.
Start taking pictures of you.
Yes, they wanted a picture with me and everybody is so excited. So at first, you know, it's fine. And then after a while, I get tired of this. But anyway.
Yeah, well, you will do. Or sometimes I've seen Chinese people wanting to touch Black people's hair. You know, fascinated.
Well, I get that in Toronto as well. And you have 400 years of African history in Canada and people still want to touch my hair. So what is that? To Chinese
I know.
people, okay, I will excuse them because they're not used to black
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But Shanghai I was amazed at the use of technology and how modern it was, more modern than any North American city, because I've lived in several cities in US and Canada. And I
Okay.
found Shanghai way more developed than North American cities. So that was fascinating.
Yeah.
And the propaganda that we see in North America, you know, the communist people in these dark suits riding bicycles, there was nothing like that. In
Right.
fact, a lot of wealthy young Chinese in particular, with the biggest, most beautiful cars, the fancy clothes, you know, so it was just very different to what we expected.
Hmm.
You need
Okay.
technology, like as tourists, we had cash, the Chinese yen. They didn't use cash, they used QVR codes on their telephone, you know, on their cell phone. So they would scan when they bought groceries and scan. Everything was scanned while we had cash and we were counting cash. But so kind of backwards compared to their current situation.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes, yes. And people were quite friendly, very, very nice people. So I enjoyed my trip a lot.
So you know when you went to China, did you go over to Japan? Or did you go two separate
No.
times?
Japan was a separate trip.
Separate
So
trip.
that was not a tour. With Japan, we just bought the plane tickets and then we stayed at Airbnb. So we stayed in first in Tokyo. And it was an old Japanese tea house. There were no chairs or tables anywhere. So you walk in and you wonder, where am I going to sit? Where am I going to sleep? Just mats everywhere. Thicker mats for sleeping and you know, duvets. And then flat mats, you sit on the ground to eat. And all. So a typical Japanese house. And there was nobody to ask anything because there was a lot, they left the key in the mailbox. You just take the key and you go in. And we would buy food, you know, down the street from corner stores and all that. There in Tokyo, everything is for convenience. So you get full meals, like real Japanese meals at the convenience store, and we'd come back and just heat it up, you know, in the microwave or whatever. So we stayed in Tokyo and we roamed around, you know, it just developed. We had to learn how to use the subway, and again, an extremely modern city like nothing I'd ever imagine or experience in my life. You know, the underground trains you have in Toronto, we have one level there, they have at least seven different levels of underground trains, each one privately owned. Wow. Different decorations, different seats, different currency, well, not currency, but different prices. So it was quite challenging to maneuver the underground because
Tokyo.
In Tokyo, yes.
That's the capital.
The capital. Then we spent time in Kyoto. So there is more traditional with lots of temples and shrines everywhere in Kyoto. So a different kind of city, not as big as Tokyo, not as modern, but very rich in culture and religion. So they have the Shinto religion. There are many shrines. Everywhere you go, you see a shrine, and if you ring the bell and you throw water. So we just watched what the people were doing and we did it too, you know. And so from Kyoto, using Kyoto as a base, we went to Arashima, just figure out, you know, how to take the trains and the buses to go everywhere. We saw geisha girls in Kyoto at night. Like real geishas, so that was exciting. And we went to up in the hills to the last train to an area where we could go bathe naked, you know, one of these baths. So I did it. Some in our group didn't want to get naked and go in the bath, but I say, well, you only live once, I'll just try it once, no big deal. But so that was interesting to go to a public bath. And the city too was far away from everything, up in the mountains. So that was quite an interesting trip. So as I say, we didn't have any tours. I just, you know, looked online and found interesting places. most popular tourist places, but we try to get up like 5 in the morning and go before the tourist buses came, because when tourists arrive, that city, you can't get a decent photograph or see the sights. So we moved early every single day, and we were able to visit many, many places in and around Kyoto. And we went to, what was the other city? What was the other city?
So you said, if we talk.
Osaka. Yes. Osaka is the most trendy. The other cities are conservative. But if you want to see people with purple hair and piercing and tattoo and all that, you go to Osaka. Yeah. Because you have a lot of young people and it's more trendy, more artsy. So we did a day trip from Kyoto and we went to Osaka for the day, and and then we wanted to hop on, hop off bus tours, and we walked around and all that. So it was it's a trendy city and very interesting. I wish I had more time to explore Osaka, but just did that for one day, and it was good.
Yeah, it's well, I've enjoyed today's conversation. We'll have to do this again because we could go on forever, couldn't we?
I know, and we are kind of running out of steam here.
But it's been more spontaneous today. We haven't actually planned properly. We had an idea what we were going to talk about, but I didn't even know I was going to put slides in here. I should have told you maybe next time you can put some slides on.
Oh, yeah.
So but at the end of the day, I've been waiting to do a Zoom with you. I've seen the one you done with Patrick Graham about the authors.
Oh, yes, that was a great.
That was great. And I think it'd be an interesting one for you. I spoke to her before, Misha. It'd be good to get Misha on and do a Zoom with her about the Shakti Reiki.
Okay, yes, certainly.
She's a good speaker and she's very intelligent, And also her boyfriend Yamtree, the Abraham.
Yes, I saw an interview you had done with Yamtree.
Yeah. So that's it, there's people here you can connect with if you level up for musicians, authors, whatever, we're all over the world, and we've got to make our connections, worldwide links. That's what it's about, though. And tell me a bit about yourself and your business, and as far as what you were doing, the painting, you're
yes. I do many different things. My background is in food science. So I've worked in the food industry for many, many years in different capacities: quality assurance, new product development. And I've worked in several different countries as well. And that's how I got to travel a lot to Latin America. Because when I worked in United States, I worked for Boscovich Farms, first of all, a large vegetable grower, and they had farms throughout California and also in Mexico and Arizona. And I had to travel to the farms and do inspections and make recommendations for improvement. Then I worked for Dole Food Company in the corporate office, and I was responsible for bananas, pineapples, and melons, and all the food safety and quality issues with these fruit entering United States. So it meant travel to Central and South America to visit the plantations.
Great.
And so it took that, working for that company took me to many countries in Central and South America and Hawaii, where Dole started, right?
Oh, lovely
So,
Hawaii.
Those trips were sponsored, so the company paid, and so I got to visit many countries. Even though it was for work, I would frequently
still the experience,
take a day or two off and go and see places. So
yeah, of course.
So that's what I did.
So where in South America did you visit? So I didn't ask you about that one before. South America.
Yeah, so I was in Peru, Ecuador, and Chile.
Wow.
And also, like not just cities, even though I flew into the city, the farms were in rural areas. So I got to see a lot of the hinterland.
Good.
Going through villages and all that, because the farms were in rural areas. And the company also had farms in Honduras and Costa Rica. So I traveled all over these countries, but in rural districts, like far from everything.
Yeah,
So it was very, very interesting to see
definitely.
how the village people lived and all that, even though I didn't stay with them. But,
A
I
country
passed through.
now, Peru is definitely a place I would love to get to soon. I've
Oh,
never
you
been
would
to
love
Peru.
it. You would love it.
Yeah, did you enjoy Peru?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, the ancient culture of the Incas.
the
I went
Incas.
off by myself for about 3 or 4 days after Cusco, the ancient Inca capital. And in Cusco, you see these structures, kind of like the pyramids. Nobody knew how
Yeah,
they could build these, and they're standing to this day. The Spanish tried to destroy these buildings, but they couldn't because they're made with solid blocks, like
yeah,
cut straight lines and blocks that fit together without mortar. And so Europeans could never understand how the Incas were able to build these structures. But up there, it's above sea level and not easy to breathe. So you need a few days to acclimatize. And I only had 3 days to visit Cusco and Machu Picchu. So I
okay.
did it under duress because I wanted to see as much as possible. And I almost passed out. I almost fainted in a marketplace. They had to bring a chair. And, I was like, I can't breathe.
A very
But it
interesting
was
one.
worth it too because I saw a lot.
It's a beautiful place. A very interesting one. Ecuador, you said before.
Yes,
Ecuador,
but
I
one,
don't
one
hear
thing
too
I'll
many
tell you, wait, about
things about
Peru.
Ecuador.
Peru has descendants of African slaves. And in Cusco, I went to a nightclub and there were some black fellas playing this kind of a box, and singing. And I was singing, and their name was Los Negritos, which means the
Yeah.
black boys. And I was wondering, where did these people come from? And so the tour guide that I had hired just in Cusco
Yeah.
to take me around, he said, well, there's some regions in Peru with a lot of people just like Los Negritos. I said, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And at that time, the president of Peru was Japanese.
Yeah. Wow, Japanese.
That's right. And he had a Japanese TV station in Peru. Yes. Same thing, similar sort of situation in Costa Rica. There's one region where the Caribbean side where you have descendants of Jamaicans who were brought to work in the banana plantations. Because I was with Dole, I visited banana plantation, which are on the East Coast, the Caribbean coast. Then in the middle of the country is where you have all the pineapple farms and all that. So there you have indigenous and Spanish looking people mixed.
Okay, yeah.
And then up in the mountains where they grow coffee, you have pure Spanish, like white Spanish. And then in the northwest of Costa Rica, I visited melon growers, like cantaloupe melons and all that. And they're descendants of Chinese, a Chinese radio station and Chinese TV stations and all that. So one time of the year, they would be growing melons, and then the rainy season, they would be growing rice.
Okay.
So you think of Costa Rica, there's so many faces to Costa Rica, like many, many faces. And so because I had to travel for work to each region, because the company had business in many different regions, and I had the opportunity to see all these different people. Now, if I was a tourist, I would never see this. Usually, I don't go. Some tourists might go on the Pacific side where you have beaches and all that, and they just stay there. But, because of work, I got to see all these regions, and it was just fascinating.
Good. Well, it sounds very exciting, some of them places as well. Costa Rica, Peru, and also Chile, you mentioned Ecuador. And
yes, so another time, because let me see, what time is it? Another time I will tell you about these. We will reconvene, okay?
You definitely have to catch up again, and I've been following a lot of what you're doing. You've been seeing a lot of my shows, what I've been doing on discovering, my different guests they have on. I'm gonna have to do a Zoom with you. That's what, since you'll come on my show soon, that's what I'm gonna have to do. We only usually get half an hour, but maybe we could either allow us to get,
Right, right.
you know,
So I'm
special
gonna
guests
stop
from overseas.